Okay, well, Jonathan Flora, the chair of the Yolo County Fire Safe Council, and I'll call this meeting to order and welcome everybody here. First bit of the business is, welcome, call everyone to order. And then second bit of business is to approve the agenda for this meeting. So we'll open the floor up for discussion and motions. And somewhere in there, I believe we've got a quorum. I'm correct, right?
I think that we probably don't at this point. So we'll just
Is Allie checking for us?
Yeah,
on that one?
But we don't need one. Well, for agenda and meeting, we don't need the two-thirds.
Two-thirds of those present, I believe.
It's only the substantial things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you are indeed, if we're legal with moving forward with entertaining a motion to approve the agenda, Kate from IHSS would be happy to move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. We've got a motion. Do we need a second, or is that not necessary in this, that it's coming from the plan? The second would be good.
Just in
All
case.
right. I'm going to assume no discussion, but feel free to interrupt me otherwise. But I will, from time to time, remember to try to wait a moment for people to unmic or unmute. But in that case, I'm going to call for all in favor. And then in a moment after that, I'll call for all opposed. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Action 2 would be to review the minutes from February 22nd. Has everyone reviewed that in the packet? And are we ready for a motion? Or is there any discussion or questions? Or is everybody looking at them right now?
This is Neil. I move to approve.
This is Moira. I second.
All right, we've got a motion to move and approve. I'll give it a moment for any other discussion. If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Appears that one has cleared as well. So we'll move on to member announcements.
Well, I have one, which is not super fire related, but of course it's ecology, so it's all connected, which is next Thursday, the 30th of March at 2 p.m. We will be having our weed management area meeting, and it'll be at Norton Hall over by the or next to the Ag Department and the Cooperative Extension. So that's an hour and a half. If you need continuing education credits, those are offered as well. And we'll just talk about some weed management focusing on broadleaf plants. Should be fun and exciting.
I've got an announcement. The EPA has a rule to change the PM 2.5 standards, which are particulates in the air from pollution, which in general is a good thing. But it could negatively affect prescribed burning. And so there's a sign-on letter that's been going around the state that was written by the people who are organizing a lot of the PBAs and an attorney. And then I was just on the Western region of the National Cohesive Strategy, and we discussed this all there too. and this letter specifically. So if anybody's interested in signing on to that letter, give me your email in the chat and I will forward it to you to be able to sign. Could be really important both for managed fire, which means letting fires burn, and also for us being able to do prescribed fires. Probably won't affect a lot of small prescribed fires, but it could affect if there are a whole bunch of people burning, in the same week throughout the state or the same area. So thanks.
Tracy, what is the timeline on the signature?
This week, it needs to be, there's a Google form in the email and that has to be signed by the 27th.
Okay, well, the RCD can sign on to that. I took a look a little bit at it
I
today.
think I forwarded it to you already.
Yeah.
So if anybody else wants to, this is Tracy, send me your email in the chat and I'll forward it to you.
Okay. Any more announcements? Guess at this point we're going to move on to reports, starting with the
Oh,
yep.
okay, so this coordinator report got sent out a week ago. And a lot of it has a lot of standing meetings. I want to call your attention to the Solano Fire Safe Council meeting March 20th, which will be on Zoom. And then we had last week a prescribed burn association meeting, and that's every third Thursday. So there'll be one April 20th, which Allie will talk a little bit more about. And then tomorrow's the brown bag meeting. And then in terms of the timeline, we're still getting signatures on our CWPP. We yesterday got the Yolo County Board of Supervisors signature. So we just need our unit chief from the Sonoma Lake Napa unit. And as you know, OES was coordinating some arborist work, but since it's been raining, there has not been any work. So hopefully this spring that those projects, projects can move forward. Does anyone have any questions about the coordinator report? Right, I will stop sharing that. And move on. I am covering for Kate today for the grant report. And actually there's some interesting, I'll go back. Oh, sorry, hands up. Kate, looks like your hand is up and you're off mute.
Yeah, I have a quick question, although it might, there might be another part of your series of reports that's the better part. I had a question about the chipping program. So if there's a better time for me to ask that, I will ask it then.
Well, Allie will be, ask Allie.
Great, I
when
will
she-
put my
when
hand
she
down.
comes up. Tracy.
Yeah, I had a question. You said OES was doing some arborist work. I know in other counties that the recent storms, especially where there was some snow up high, knocked down a bunch of trees. And so it's created a big issue in terms of adding more flashy fuels. Is that something that we've seen? Has that happened in Yolo County? And if so, how is OES, or does anybody know how it's been addressed and where those areas are?
I believe the Rumsey Canyon Road work has been added to by falling down trees, but I have not actually been down that road. So if somebody local can answer that question. I did hear, hear that things were a little bit rougher than they were when the plan first started.
And is that funded by DOD money or by Cal?
Yeah, that's early action funding, yeah.
So it might affect the number of acres we deliver.
Possibly.
Yeah, so far, I mean, one of the projects we're doing over in Napa, we got hit pretty hard, but CAL FIRE's been pretty amenable about contract amendments. So I was just curious if anybody's had to deal with anything yet over here. And if not, I guess we lucked out this time.
Yeah. 2 limbs down, but I haven't driven down Rumsey Canyon Road in a while.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm gonna really quick share my screen. So as you know, Kate always gives the grant reports, and there's 2 new grants that folks might be interested in applying for. One is, it's called the Green Schoolyards Grant Program. So that would be nonprofit agencies, cities and counties and school districts can apply to do more tree planting through the urban greening program. And then there's another opportunity also through CAL FIRE called the Volunteer Fire Capacity Grant. So that's a federally funded program for California to provide local and rural fire departments with minor firefighting training, communications, and safety equipment for volunteers. Not a big grant, $500 to $20,000, but still could give a good shot in the arm. So I will post this link in the chat. And does anyone have any questions about the grant opportunities? Okay, I will close that one up and pass the next report on to Bailey Adams, who's not here. So Allie will be giving an update on the Prescribed Burn Association. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sometimes a reboot will help with
That's
that.
very odd. Good thing
We could
Heather's here.
We could circle back to you too if you want to do a reboot.
Well, actually, so Allie's the last person from the Yolo RCD to go. So, oh, she's connecting to audio. Okay.
Well, that or we go to the Community Fire Safe Council reports and
Yes.
or Solano, and then the community ones, then come back to Allie.
For Solano.
Yep.
So yeah, as Tanya mentioned, we had a March 20th meeting. Our next one is set for the 3rd Monday in April, which is April 17th. So we'll be sending out communications about that as it gets closer. We recently put in for that CAL FIRE wildfire prevention grant with working with Yolo on that one. So thanks Yolo for all of the hard work getting that in by the deadline. I feel very silly saying that, you know, we were a part of that because I personally didn't end up doing anything on that, but lots of hard work all around. So thanks everyone for that. We've got our spring plant sale coming up this Saturday, March 25th out at Mangles Winery in Sassoon Valley. So just outside of Fairfield. There will be information on firescaping. We're offering small workshops on that at 1 and 3 p.m. And I will put the link to our plant list in the chat box in a minute here so you can see what is going to be available. If you'd like some new native plants for your fire safe garden, feel free to stop by. We will also be helping with the Wildfire Expo that's coming up on April 15th at Solano College, I believe. That's something that is hosted by Rochelle Sherlock from Green Valley Fire Safe Council. Hope to see a lot of folks there. There will be a lot of educational offerings and vendors. Should be a pretty good time. And the CWPP for Solano County is in progress. There's a draft that was sent around to the core team in recent weeks, and the vendor that's been preparing that plan presented on the different components at the March 20th Fire Safe Council meeting. They'll also be sharing information about it at the Green Valley Fire Safe Council and Pleasance Valley Fire Safe Council meetings in, I believe, early next month. So if you're looking for details of that plan, there will be in-person opportunities to review it. I'm happy to share the link to the documents in the chat box, and there's also a form to provide feedback on it. So that's what we've got from Solano. If there are any questions, I'll happily take those.
I see Allie's back. Do you want to test the audio waters?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So do you want me to dive right into my PBA spiel? Good. Okay, just wanted to make sure that Karen, you were good. You were done. Okay. So yeah, the PBA, we had our last meeting on March 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. It happened at the Esparto Community Center. And it really focused on the foundational documents for the Prescribed Burn Association. So we went over membership forms and liability forms. And it was a chance for folks to comment on those and ask questions and provide suggestions for those forms. And we also had a quick discussion about potential barriers or reasons why people might be fearful of prescribed burns or why they might not want to be involved. And what we heard from the attendees was that we really need to get out in the community and host outreach events and make sure that folks are aware of what prescribed burning is and the benefits. And so be on the lookout for those. There's nothing on the calendar quite yet, but we're hoping to get out there and chat with the community. So send us any suggestions if you have any events that we can table at or any speaking engagements where we could, jump up and give an overview of prescribed burning. And then moving forward, our next PBA meeting is April 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. This one will take place at the Winters Fire Department. And I imagine there'll be a short presentation about permitting and compliance and some stuff about that, but the bulk of it will be about the PBA gear trailer, and which is an equipment trailer that the RCD owns that can be loaned out to anyone who's interested in, or loaned out to members, and will be at PBA or at Prescribed Burns in the future, and it has everything that is needed to conduct a safe prescribed burn. So we'll be going over tools and equipment that are in there and proper and safe usage and all of that. So that'll definitely be fun. So be sure to join if you're interested in prescribed burning. And afterwards, we'll probably move over to Berryessa Brew for anyone to ask any questions that they might have and to continue the conversation about prescribed burning. So again, that takes place on April 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. And it's at the Winters Fire Department. And I'll drop some links in the chat about those events and some more information on that. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have for the PBA. Does anyone have any questions?
There was a chipper question for you.
Yeah, so I'll dive into my outreach little spiel, and then Kate, you can ask a question about the chipper program. So for outreach, the Fire Safe Council website is fully launched and up for people to use. That's where all of our program information can be found. The reflective address sign and the chipper program are still going. And we did actually have a chipper day today up in Rumsey, where they got to one property up there and did some chipping. So yeah, that's really all I have for the Fire Safe Council stuff. Kate, do you have your question about chipping?
I do, thanks. Monday's Winter's Natural Resources Commission meeting, we had a discussion about wood chips actually, and especially related to some plantings, and it occurred to me that I can't remember, maybe I should know the information, what we do with the chips. I know there was discussion during that meeting about that one of the best practices is to actually to leave them there, but I don't know if some of the chips get hauled away or what's going on with it.
Yeah, we leave the chips on the property for the landowner to use.
Right.
And then we did hear from Hedgerow Farms in Winters that they're interested in chips if we have a landowner that doesn't want to leave the chips on their property, that has no use for them. And so that's always an option for us if there are folks out there that are worried about that, not wanting chips on their property. And then, yeah, I can get in touch with anyone at the City of Winters and we can move the chips around if needed or set that up somehow.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions about, oh, I forgot, sorry, one more thing I forgot to mention. The RCD and the Fire Safe Council will be tabling at Duck Days, which is, I think it's the 4th Saturday in April, I believe. I'll get the date correct. But yeah, we'll be there at Duck Days, chatting with the community about the RCD and Fire Safe Council. So if you're going to be there, stop by and say hi. We'll probably borrow the Karen Young's game, the little, I don't know, what would you call it? Like
The fire safe
beanbag
house for little
box.
thing.
Yeah, we'll
Ah.
probably borrow that, so you can stop by and
Okay.
have some fun with us there. Neil, do you have a question?
Yes, Ally, what's the status of the sign that we're wanting to put up on Road 128, Highway 128?
That's a great question. Tanya, do you want to take that one?
So we will have to apply for funding for that at some point, or we may be able to fold it into the grant that we just wrote. But for everyone who doesn't know what Neil is referring to, we have 2 beautiful signs created to put next to one at Highway 16 as people go into the Cape Hay Valley, and one at Highway 128 as people go up to Lake Berryessa, alerting them that it's a high fire area, and there'll be logos and our Fire Safe Council website for people to just pay attention and not drag chains and throw cigarettes out the window and all that kind of stuff. So the signs are designed, but they need to be fabricated and installed. And I believe that was $5,000 to $6,000 for all of that work. So it's definitely on the back burner. And thank you so much, Neil, for reminding us, because we'd really like to do it.
This is Moira. Ally, can I ask you a question about the chipping program?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Yolo County Flood Control's been managing the chipper and doing a fabulous job. Chris Fullerton's amazing at keeping things organized and on track. Given that this year we're actually going to have irrigation water, how busy will they be? Will they be able to keep up with chipping this spring and summer?
That's a good question. I'm going to pass that one off to Tanya again, because we've been chatting about that a bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually on my list of things to do, which now I will do tomorrow, is check in with Flood Control about that. So I haven't talked to them for a while, and last I did, they did not have full allocations, but that was many atmospheric rivers ago.
Yep. And we have done such a good job of promoting the chipping program up here that we have a lot of people who are getting ready to do the work that will result in the need for chipping. And I know I've talked to Chris about a month ago about how heavy their equipment is, and they need solid ground. And of course, we haven't had any for a while. So as soon as there's solid ground, people are going to start applying right away.
Awesome.
Good questions. You guys are keeping us on track.
I'll just pipe in to say, since Kristen is on the phone from OES, that it could be something the county decides, not to put you on the spot, but it could be something that county could decide to go out to bid for. Since it's been like a direct interagency agreement with the county through the early action funding. Or if you already have an arborist that you already contract with, that may be a way to try that. Just a thought. Otherwise, because we haven't been, it's been between the county and flood control. Hasn't been between the RCD and flood control. It's the other the other thing we could do, not to get too deep into this, but is could be through the RCD. We could try that. But we could talk about that another day too. But we may have to if the flood control district's going to be I would imagine their work is going to be around cleaning out the delivery systems and the drainage systems and repairs from floods and weed management. They're probably going to be busy. A smart question. We're thinking about that too.
Yes.
Sounds like there might be a full allocation. At least that's what Rumsey water users heard.
I did see, I was over there yesterday and asked, and it is full allocation, yeah.
All right. Any other county reports, or we move on to the community fire safe council reports? All right, well, I guess on the agenda, Cape Valley.
Don't really have anything to report other than that we have some work party dates coming up as soon as the ground's not so soggy, to help our disabled and seniors, et cetera, get some defensible space projects done now that don't have to wait until the grass stops growing.
Okay, Wes Winters.
See, we really don't have much to report either. We did rotate our chair, and so Ken Britton is coming in as the chair of our steering committee. And we're waiting for him to organize a meeting for to get together and for putting in bylaws together, which we were so busy with so many other projects that the bylaws were not nearly as important as getting some things done. But now we're circling back to try to create some structure. And that will be, Ken will be leading that.
Do we have any other fire safe councils on the call? All right. I guess we're moving on to number 7, special report.
All right. Before I start, I want to make sure. So we think we might be getting close to a quorum, but there's some mystery people on here. So if you wouldn't mind putting your affiliation after your name, that would be super helpful for Allie, who's got the roll sheet. And then we may be able to do our vice chair, but while you're doing that, I will launch into, I actually made a slideshow. And I would also say, back to the quorum thing, there's folks who've been regularly attending who have not filled out the application form to become a voting member of the Fire Safe Council. So that would be awesome too, for people who are pretty active, but not official. Okay. Does that look good, presentation mode? All right, as Karen mentioned, and as you know from last month, we wrote a large grant to CAL FIRE. So I'm going to give you an update on it. And dang it. Okay, so as many good grants are, this one has lots of partners, and we have partnered with the Solano RCD to get some work done on the ground in the high fire areas of Solano County, as well as our high fire areas of Yolo County. So a tiny bit of background. This is called the it's the CAL FIRE Wildfire Prevention Grant Program, and it was released in December 2022. So that's why the old year is still on it. It's funded by the General Fund of California State with cap and trade auction proceeds through the California Climate Investment Program. It's up to $20 million. And 5 million of that will be intended for projects that include grazing, which we did. So there's 3 different parts of this, or 3 different areas you can apply for. Is hazardous fuels reduction, wildfire prevention planning, and wildfire prevention education. They want an emphasis on improving public health and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And the biggest request you can ask for is $5 million. And this grant, unlike many of the ones that we're used to applying for, goes for 5 years. So the grant would end in March 2029. And it's important to note the program provides funding for prevention projects and activities in and near communities for the protection of people and structures and communities, but it's not, it doesn't allow for infrastructure building like new bridges and things like that. So it's hazardous fuel reduction is the main focus. So our program will focus on the high fire risk communities in Western Yolo and Solano counties. A little bit more background. This fully supports CAL FIRE's LNU fire plan. They have a strategic fire plan, which they released, interestingly, like a month before the LNU fire blew up. But interestingly, the LNU has responsibility for more than 2.3 million acres of their direct protection area. That's slightly different from their state responsibility area. That's their legal responsibility. The DPA is, they can respond to fires in their DPA, whether or not they're legally entitled to. That gets complicated. But anyway, basically it's a large amount of area, and it has the 3rd largest population of any of their units. And it ranks #1 in total fires. So we should be pretty competitive because of that reason. So lots of words here. Again, we're focusing on fuels reduction. We're working with Solano RCD. So we'll work as a team in our planning and our education projects. This project will protect people, structures, and community by reducing wildfire risk for 37,000 habitable structures. And that includes the high fire areas, which back right against that, Benicia and Vacaville, Fairfield, Vallejo. So we'll be protecting residents and structures in the communities of, as we know, Rumsey, Gwenda, Brooks, Cape Hay, Pleasance Valley, English Hills, Bucktown, Sassoon Valley, and Green Valley, and then the cities of Winters, Vacaville, Fairfield, Vallejo, and Benicia. And we'll be building on all our existing partnerships with our fire safe councils, our fire departments, our fire protection districts, our county partners, the USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Services, the Cooperative Extension. We're working with Caltrans. We'll have our community groups and nonprofits, land trusts, and the tribe. So here's a map. It's a little bit busy, but I just wanted to point out a few things. There's a lot of overlap between the state responsibility area, which is in pink, and the wildland urban interface. That's where communities and wildlands, which tend to be high fire, meet. So the green area is the wildland urban interface. Lots of overlap. And in that area, we have habitable structures, which this grant is to protect. So lots more in Solano. In Yolo, in the Yolo County state responsibility area, there's 767 habitable structures. And then in Winters, actually, I don't have a map of that, but the edges of Winters are in the city limits are categorized as threatened, and there's 1,700 structures there on the edge of town. So here is what we requested. I won't read the numbers and I did round them up. But we did ask for the total amount around just under $5 million. So again, I'm not going to read all this. I just wanted to put this in here to show you, this is our wildfire prevention education. And we have many, and again, remember, this is almost 5-year project. We'll have workshops on fire home, on home hardening, defensible space, education. We'll do virtual workshops on all these things. We'll have prescribed fire training and education. We have 2 demonstration burns planned for the Prescribed Burn Association, which will be happening regardless of whether or not we get this grant. Conservation in hazardous fuels reduction to protect wildlife and promote your native plants. So not just bulldoze it all, but have it be more habitat friendly. We'll maintain our websites and hopefully get those danger awareness signs put in, and then some informational kiosks in Solano County. For planning, so even though we have a community wildfire protection plan, there's still much more planning that needs to happen for this project. For all projects, we have to do CEQA documentation because this is public money. We hope to work with the Cape Valley Fire Protection District and plan a buffer around Rumsey, because that is the most at-risk community in our whole project area. We'll be working with Cooperative Extension on grazing, and we'll continue to beef up our expertise on burning and train up all our staff from Yolo and Solano to be able to help with prescribed burning and prescribed grazing. We'll be mapping, and then of course making vegetation management plans that are not burning and grazing, but shaded fuel breaks, other fuel breaks as needed, and then be monitoring this work. But mostly the bulk, as you saw a few slides ago, is hazardous fuels reduction. So we're going to be hiring and managing contractors to do chipping, thinning, and grazing. So grazing contractors. We'll be covering the cost of a burn boss to lead prescribed burns through our PBA, but funding will be ending. We hope to continue the Prescribed Burn Association. And then we have a request in for funding for Severa to put together a tools and equipment trailer to go out with their volunteers and do defensible space work. So this grant isn't like, we can't pay someone to go do defensible space, but there will be residents who are unable to do their own defensible space, and Severa will be helping with that, as well as some of the other fuels reduction work in the Cape Valley. So some of these projects should look familiar. They're from our project list, from our CWPP. There's the Gwenda Wildfire Protection Project, which is early action funding. So we will maintain that as needed because, as you know, fuels plants, you cut them down, many California plants will grow back. So maintaining that project. And then doing a prescribed burn along the stretch of Highway 16 just past Cape, where there's very often fires that are not intended. So doing a strip like the one that's done outside of Winters, doing some fuels reduction up in the Rumsey Canyon. And then further up into the Puda Creek Canyon, past the big burn that CAL FIRE always does, is to do some roadside fuels reduction. Also on the plan is some creekside work in Winters, Dry Creek and Puda Creek. And then a buffer around the west side of town in the grasslands using grazing. And we also have a long-term maintenance of roadsides and fuel breaks if the actual project managers and proponents are not able to do the work themselves for whatever reason. County Road 41A, Rumsey Canyon Road, to maintain the work that will happen on that. CAL FIRE did some brush mowing along County Road 53 and 78A, so we want to maintain that. If they're not able to, which we hope they will, because that'll give us more money to do new projects. And then to maintain some critical fuel breaks. So we have the front country fire break that is planned, and the Valley Vista fire break that is planned, and the Bobcat Ranch fire breaks, and hopefully those will all happen. And then over the course of the grant, if they need some light work, we'll have funding to hire someone to be able to do that. This is a very busy map, and I'm happy to send out all the maps so you can zoom in and look at them as you would like at your leisure. I know this is it's kind of tough to see such a busy map from a small screen, but this is our Yolo County projects mapped. Not every project is on here, but all the ones that we included in this proposal. So those are the ones that I just mentioned. And we got a lot of support for this work from both sides of the county. So I just want to thank everyone who is excited about this and who worked on it and who hopefully will be working on it. And that was a lot faster than I thought it would be. So if anyone has any questions, and Heather is also here to add anything that I may have forgotten in my PowerPoint. I thought that was going to take a lot longer than it did.
Tanya, you might have mentioned this, but when you were talking about the front country fire breaks, the maintenance and all of that, we're also planning to, which is one of the projects in the CWPP, to be coordinating a fuel break task force to coordinate that effort.
Yeah, I realized as I was wrapping this up around 3:30, there was so much in that grant, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it all in a PowerPoint. But yeah, that's an important one. That's one that a lot of folks in our community meetings were really excited about, is creating a field break task force of people to go out and find areas that need, or identify areas that need work.
Be perfect, because no one has any comments.
Well, I do have to say, this whole process, so the grant writing, you know, it was a lot of work, and then we had to wrangle with their new portal to submit it, which made a lot of extra work. But I was going to include a timeline in here of the CWPP plan that was first proposed. We're basically 3 months ahead of schedule on the CWPP. And I think a lot of that is due to everybody working together so easily. And so it just has been breezing along.
So Tracy dropped in the chat that CAL FIRE got a lot of proposals for this program. And even though we do have a high fire LNU region status, and we may be competitive, there may not be enough money to go around. So prioritize any of those. If there's comments on, you know, the prioritization, if we have to go there, it will probably be a couple of months, I would guess, Tracy, for us to even know if they're going to say, hey, cut this down to 3 million, and how you going to do it, or whatever happens.
Yeah, I suspect so. That's actually in the region. They're saying that already. And so it depends how long it takes them to process, you know, getting everything in. Like I just checked the website and they don't have the list yet of all the applicants. So it may be that they'll reach out and say, okay, let's work. We want to work with you to, you know, we like the project, but we've got to modify and cut it back to 3 million or whatever it is. Right. And so the word is to start thinking about that, how we would scale them back. And one way is if we're, you know, if we've put in for 5 years, then could you do 3 years? Or is there a certain area that you'd want to cut out versus another, things like that? Like maybe the maintenance stuff that you talked about, even though maintenance is really key, that tends to be less competitive, but at the same time, it's really, really, really important. So yeah, I think having that discussion here is a great idea. Just in case, or we may wait another month and see what we hear, but certainly something for everybody to be thinking about, to be prepared if we do hear that.
Kate Laddish.
Thanks. I'm really excited to hear that some of the vegetation management in Pewter Creek and Dry Creek around Winters. I'm really glad that you included that. I'll put my Winters Natural Resource hat back on. I mean, that's something that we've really talked about and that's of interest, and so fingers crossed, and maybe that's a discussion to continue.
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, it's a big chunk of area, so we'll have to prioritize where the work would happen.
Yeah, and that's something I mean, since there's several different partners, especially along the Pewter Creek part, that I'm assuming that that it'd be one of these where just kind of check in with all the different partners and make
That's
sure.
why we have funding for planning.
Aha, excellent. You've done this rodeo before.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much.
I didn't get to say, but I think it's a great proposal, and I think it's really competitive, and I think it makes a lot of sense for like the first year following the CWPP implementation, and that it shows that you've done your work and that there's a need and that there's a whole lot to be done, and all the numbers of communities and structures and all that. So I think it's going to be really competitive. Let's see, I'm fairly confident we'll get it funded. The question is how much. What was the total budget? You may have said.
It was like
It was
shy of 50,000 from 5 million. It was something like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty close.
there were lots of nines. It was like 499, 99, something.
Yeah.
It wasn't
yeah.
quite that
Love-
close, but yeah, it was about that close. It was pretty close.
So yeah, we
Um,
should be thinking about like if we had to cut out 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million,
Mhm.
half or two, like how would we do that? Like start prioritizing that.
mhm.
And then also be thinking about it, and I'm sure Kate will do this in terms of what are those chunks that we could get funded elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're actually hoping to get some of the CEQA we asked for done in the next, get at least started in the next couple months. Get the process started on some of those things that we put money for in just in case. So that could loosen up some change.
Yeah, they said that I think the latest that awards would happen is October. Last year
Mhm.
they happened a little earlier. So
Okay.
hard to say.
So we may know more just how other things evolve by then.
Yeah, oh, definitely long before then. And there is the end of the fiscal year at the end of June, so I would assume we're gonna have some sense of what's going on by then, maybe internally, like kind of what the range and all that.
Well, this will be a good group to work on project decision making if that's needed.
One of the questions I have is, the expediency of getting work done. For instance, the Dodds money was appropriated and in fact identified to the project a year ago. And we're still sitting with most of it in limbo. And so it would be, really good if we could, set an example for how we use this money by pushing that along too.
Yeah, again, that's funding for planning and then time to pay staff to do the contracting, and then project management is in there to get it done.
But it would be great, as Neil said, if some of the early action funding could cover some of these things that are in this grant, we can use it for other stuff.
Right, and it's also, to clarify, we didn't ask for money to do any of those projects because hopefully they'll be done by the time we are awarded and sign our agreement to do this work. So we only ask for money to maintain those projects once they get done. So there's a lot in limbo.
Yeah, just the question is, how do we kind of get this, the ones that have been funded underway? That's it is a little frustrating to have these funds that were appropriated for specific projects basically a year ago, and we're still waiting for even any kind of indication as to when we can expect it to be done.
Yeah, I do know OES is short-staffed right now, so.
And I know, and Kristen's been working hard to get things up, and Kristen, my vote is working hard to get that back up and going. She's been working with us on the chipper program reimbursements, and those have actually come to us now. So she's been able to make some things happen. She's on the call.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure we don't even, those of us who are at our layer don't even begin to understand the frustrations you're dealing with. But yeah, it just, like I say, it's just not a good example of how we can get things done by not having been able to pursue and finish something that was funded that long ago.
I got one question as we're reaching the end of the meeting. Did we ever determine if we have a quorum to return to item number 4 on the agenda?
Ally said we did not make quorum, and she
Okay.
triple checked that. So that means no
Just
voting, right? for
Wanted to
the
make
action.
sure before we lost our opportunity.
Mhm.
Well, so we did, as you saw in the agenda, we do have a nominee for our vice chair. So we are excited about welcoming Chief Snyder to that position when we get enough, when we get our quorum. So again, folks, if you've been participating, but you haven't filled out a form to be a voting member, then please contact me.
Maybe we should do kind of a special announcement for the next meeting to say quorum needed.
I'm going to write that down. Yes.
That means you.
It
Come
hasn't
on
been
in.
an issue, so that's kind of frustrating.
So with the
Thank you.
CWPP, I'm going to throw something we didn't even talk about yet out just for,
Oh.
since we're at the very end, and that is, and we're done with the CWPP really as our work as a fire safe council. Like, what do we want to do next? Do you want informational sessions? Do you still want to meet every month? Tanya does not know I was going to ask this question. I just thinking about that, you know.
A good question. I'm glad you asked it. Well,
think about it.
I've been thinking about it. I know that this platform in the past has been really good educational format, and I know we've had a few requests for a presentation on the evil Arundo Donax giant reed high fire ugly plant that grows in our creek. So I can certainly do that. Yeah, that's one thought for next month. And Tara, do you have an idea? Request?
Well, I will say I share your surprise in that this is the first time the attendance has not been sufficient enough to have a quorum. And I wonder if that's because the CWPP process is done. But I think that, Heather, you ask a great question. And so maybe in the reminder for next month, when you say, hey, we didn't have a quorum last month, we really need your help to get there. And we're going to talk about next steps and the frequencies of this meeting, because maybe people are saying like now we should be every other month or once a quarter. And so I think that would be better to have that full discussion with a broader audience.
Great suggestion, and
Yep.
let's do that. I don't want to take us over the 5 p.m. close date, but great.
Okay,
Good
so we'll
agenda.
plan
All right.
on next month. And we'll have some more planning then.
Well-
This just seems like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I-
I was going to get to the point of, I guess we have to move to adjourn, so. let's-
Great. I just wanted to thank RCD staff for all of your hard work on the CWPP, and Tanya, I appreciate the little show and
Oh,
tell
yeah.
with the big
This is-
fan copy.
This is the signable version. We've got 2 out of 3 signatures on it.
There you go. No, really, thank you so much. It's really great.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an awesome experience.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap this up pretty much on time. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Come on, somebody jump
Before,
on me.
oh, sorry, there's just one comment from Tracy that just to leave the thoughts with. Do you see that, Jonathan?
Oh, I think we want to meet monthly during the summer and fall around grant deadlines, otherwise quarterly, or at least bi-monthly. Yeah,
Okay.
staggering around the holidays and things to where it may be hard to get a quorum anyways, unless it's a grant deadline. So I think we we might have to have a longer discussion. And my thought would be that because some of those grant deadlines, they'll come up, we'll find out about them, and we have 2 months or 3 months, and maybe we're too long in between.
Now that we know and everyone knows who everyone is, and we can always reach out by email or phone
Mhm.
call and start something that timely fashion. So
True.
anyway, it's more to talk about on all of that. Please add the question about meeting frequency to the April agenda. Yes. All right, let's do that. Totally. Okay. Great.
Sounds good. All right. Well, the people are leaving, so I guess that is the consensus that we're adjourning.
If,
What do I need
if
to
you're,
call
if you're
that?
looking,
Try-
if you're looking for a motion, I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay.
And
I
Tara will
second the motion.
Oh, there you
Yep.
go.
All in favor.
Aye.
Bye.
Hi.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Jonathan.
Thank
Good job,
you.
guys.